You know, when you think about the story of our world, some places are just pages in the book, but others, well, they're the ink the story's written with. There's this one country, right at the crossroads of three continents, a land of rugged mountains and sun-soaked islands, and its influence, its echoes, are everywhere, in our governments, our theaters, even our sports stadiums.
And when the poet Percy Shelley said this, he wasn't talking about ancestry. He was talking about an inheritance of ideas, a kind of cultural DNA that has shaped the world we live in ways we don't even think about most of the time.
Now, that is a huge claim, right? But stick with me here because we're going to unpack it. The really fundamental concepts of how we live, how we think, how we govern ourselves, so many of them were first tried out on this ancient stage. So how on earth did this small, rocky peninsula cast such a massive shadow over all of human history? To really get it, we're going to journey from the very cradle of civilization. We'll explore the myths and mountains that shaped its people and look at the legacy they literally cast in marble. Then we'll connect that ancient past to its pretty surprising role as a modern maritime power, and we'll see why this is a story that's still being written.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. This is the place widely considered the birthplace of Western civilization. And it's not just about some old ruins, it's about the absolutely revolutionary ideas that first grew in this soil.
This is wild. It's basically the source code for so much of our world. The very idea of democracy, that citizens should have a say? Or what about Western philosophy, the art of asking why? The plays that still move us, the thrill of the Olympic Games. None of this was a given. These were radical, out-there ideas that formed a blueprint for the future, and they were designed right here.
But of course, ideas like these don't just pop up out of nowhere. If you really want to understand the people, you've got to understand the land first. Greece's geography, its very shape, basically dictated its destiny. It forged a nation of fierce individuals with a curiosity that just couldn't be contained.
Just try to picture it. A staggering 80% of this place is mountains. This landscape literally carved the country up into these isolated pockets, these little valleys and plains. So it wasn't one big unified empire at first. It was a whole collection of fiercely independent communities. And that fostered this incredible spirit of resilience, and it led to a unique political setup that would, well, change everything. But that's only half the story, right? Because while the mountains pushed people apart, the sea brought them together. With over 13,000 kilometers of coastline, the longest in the entire Mediterranean, the sea was basically a superhighway. It was an invitation to get out there, turning the Greeks into sailors and traders and explorers who took their ideas all across the known world.
So you've got this incredible mix of being isolated but also connected. It was the perfect storm for new ideas. Let's just look at a few moments in time when these ideas completely shifted the human story.
Okay, before we get to the dates, you have to understand this one word, the polis, the city-state. This was so much more than just a city. It was its own independent country, really, and it's where the radical idea of a citizen was born. I mean, someone with rights and responsibilities. Now, we have to be real, this was limited. It didn't include women or slaves, but still, the polis was the lab where everything that came next was invented. So when you look at these dates, don't just see them as history. These are game changers. From the first Olympics, uniting bitter rivals through sport, to the birth of actual democracy in Athens. That unbelievable victory over the Persian Empire, it lit a fuse for a cultural explosion we call the Golden Age. And you know, even when Greece was eventually conquered by Rome, its ideas ended up conquering the Roman Empire right back. Okay, so that's the ancient world. But what about now? How does that legacy show up today? Well, the answer isn't just sitting in a museum. It's out on the open ocean, powering the massive engines of global trade. If you look at Greece's economy today, it's a modern, high-income country, and you can see it's overwhelmingly driven by services. And that's powered by two global giants, tourism, no surprise there, and another industry that is a direct, unbroken line from its ancient past.
And this is where that echo from the past gets really loud. That connection to the sea, it never left. Today, the Greek merchant marine is the largest in the world. They control a mind-boggling 18% of the entire planet's shipping capacity. The spirit of those ancient sailors is alive and kicking, running the engine of our modern global economy.
And you know, that famous Greek resilience, it's been put to the test recently. The country went through a brutal decade-long debt crisis that shook the world economy and really tested the people. But today, the economy is on the rebound, proving yet again that this is a nation that knows how to endure.
So you might be thinking, with all this incredible history, the Acropolis, Plato,
Aristotle, is Greece just a giant, beautiful museum? Is it stuck in the past?
The answer? Not even close. The reality is so much more dynamic. Greece isn't frozen in amber. It's a living, breathing, evolving country that is constantly figuring out how to be modern while carrying this immense history on its shoulders. I mean, just look at what's happening right now. It's a key player in the European Union. It's one of the most visited countries on the planet. And yeah, it takes care of its incredible heritage. But it's also a country that's still changing. In 2024, it became the first Orthodox Christian country to legalize same-sex marriage. That tells you its story isn't just about preserving the past, it's about building a more inclusive future too. So what Greece really shows us is that the past isn't something that's just over. It's the foundation you build on. From the ancient debates in the polis to the arguments in its modern parliament, from ancient warships to today's supertankers, this is a nation that's always in conversation with its own story. And that story is far from finished. The only question is, what will we learn from the next chapter?